UFC Vegas 45, aka UFC Fight Night, Derrick Lewis versus Chris Daukaus. Welcome to our main card prediction video, our final video of the year, our final 6 fights of the year, as of course, this is the last UFC event for the year. We are Boxing MMA Picks. Of course, he goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. And as usual, we are giving you our fight-by-fight breakdown, fight-by-fight analysis, specifically from the betting perspective, here to let you know which fights are worth the value, which fights you want to avoid, which underdog has the best shot at winning, and some parlay action, of course, towards the end of the video. If you have not checked out our prelim card yet, please make sure you go ahead and do that. While you're at it, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up on this video, and make sure you participate in the comments. Like I said, this entire card had 14 fights. We covered the first 8 of them on the prelim. We're covering the last 6 of them, the last 6 fights of the year on our main card. And we are going to get right into fight number 1. We have Swanson taking on Darren Elkins. Interesting featherweight matchup here. You have 2 veteran fighters. Taking a look at Darren Elkins, he beat Derek Minner back in July. Tough fighter, 37 years old, serviceable stand-up. He likes to engage, active jabs, active combinations, puts on the pressure, comes forward almost at all times. He can definitely switch it up and fight from the outside at times. Can take a hit, although he definitely wears the damage, no pun intended with his nickname. And he has solid takedowns, almost 3 takedowns landed per fight. Only 33% accuracy, but that does tell you he will go for it. If I'm not mistaken, second most takedowns in UFC featherweight history. A lot of that could just be due to longevity, but nonetheless, still has that accolade to his name. Good clinch, good chain wrestling, definitely pushes a very heavy wrestling pace. And again, just has that overall pace, has that heart, doesn't really stop unless you really start to put damage on him. Swanson, he lost to Giga Chikadze back in May. No shame there. Giga's a pretty good fighter in this division. Have to respect his stand-up still at this point in his career. He's going to be the guy moving around the cage. He's going to be the guy using the in and out movement, changes of pace. He's always trying to make a read on you while making it difficult to try to read him. Veteran fight IQ, veteran striking IQ, well-rounded. He does have a little bit of an ability to grapple, a little bit of an ability to land takedowns. But look for him to be ultimately just the better striker, the smarter striker. Could potentially put on a clinic here on the feet. Swanson still has that ability, but we see the odds here. Swanson is minus 200. In my opinion, this fight has trap written all over it. Even if Swanson were to win, minus 200 is way too steep for that. In fact, in some ways, Swanson should win. Again, you're looking at the fighter who's better on the feet. Both guys are just as old as each other, so it's not like Swanson is going up against a 29-year-old or someone who's in their athletic prime. But I've seen Swanson get taken down. I've seen him be kept down on the ground. And Elkins has that relentless wrestling and that relentless pace to do that for at least 2 rounds. Again, I'm not necessarily saying Darren Elkins wins here, but Swanson at these odds, trap written all over it. Very good underdog value coming in on Darren Elkins, in my opinion. And like I said, unless Swanson really hurts him on the feet, I think Darren Elkins' relentless wrestling approach should be enough to net him 2 rounds in this one. Just like with the prelims, I started with an underdog. I'm starting the main card with an underdog as well. Darren Elkins is going to be my pick.
This is a good fight, but for Darren Elkins to get this done, he's gonna have to survive that beatdown in the first round, and then show that heart, because he has a good chin, and then show that heart, and continue the fight, second, third round, having the better cardio over Swanson here. So we need to figure out whether Swanson has good enough cardio here to last second, third round, when we know that Nick Lentz is gonna have. Darren Elkins is going to have good grappling at that point. So, because he's going to be the guy in the better shape. I'm going to be quick. This is a tough fight for me. I I can't feel confident going either side here. But again, with the odds, I'm going to roll the dice with Darren Elkins. I'm going to go with Darren Elkins as well. I wouldn't be surprised Cub Swanson wins. He's supposed to win at those odds. But I feel if he doesn't knock him out, I think as the fight goes on, Darren Elkins could put on a pace and out cardio Cub Swanson at that point. So again, this is a tough fight. I'm going to go with the underdog, Darren Elkins.
Fight number 2, we have Diego Ferreira taking on Mateusz Gamrot. For Ferreira, he lost to Gregor Gillespie back in May, 2-fight losing streak now, albeit stiff competition. He faced 2 pretty good opponents. Switch stance fighter, bit of a Muay Thai stance. He likes to lead with the head kicks, comes forward. He's usually the one fighting out of the center of the octagon. The boxing is okay. He is a bit slow, in my opinion. Likes to use the jab, good clinch, good BJJ. He is a 3rd-degree black belt, so very legitimate there. He can look for that clinch on you. He can pull you down to the ground, make it a ground battle, body lock, submission attempts, very active guard. Again, if you're on top of him, very active guard as a result of his BJJ. But to that point, he can be taken down. And that's not something, as I mention it all the time, that's not something that looks good in the eyes of the judges. So that's not something that I favor too much when a fighter likes to pull guard. For Mateusz Gamrot, he beat Jeremy Stephens in July. He's on a 2-fight win streak now. We see his record there, 19-1. Obviously a very high-level fighter from that perspective. Good technical striker, looks composed on the feet, looks comfortable on the feet. He can switch stance. He's pretty diverse in his striking, mixes it up pretty well. Shows good level changes on the feet, good in and out movement, good fakes and feints, keeps his opponents guessing, and definitely has that takedown ability. Small UFC sample size, but 5 takedowns per fight sort of speaks to his ability. Good takedown entries, good ability to finish the takedown, good ability to introduce chain wrestling if you sort of defend that first attempt at the takedown. And if we're talking about grappling, again, say what you want about Brazilian grappling. Again, 3rd-degree black belt in Diego Ferreira. Mateusz Gamrot, to some degree, can keep up. I mean, he is a Polish and a European grappling champion. So definitely a very credentialed grappler in his own right. Overall, you're looking at a very well-rounded fighter in Mateusz Gamrot. From a prediction standpoint, I will keep that part of it short. I'm looking at Gamrot here as the tougher fighter. I'm looking at Gamrot here as the better wrestler. More intentional with his wrestling and his takedown game. He is an elite grappler as well, regardless of who the better grappler is. He's an elite grappler, and that should at least protect him from Diego Ferreira's biggest strength, and more than likely the better striker. So I'm looking at Mateusz Gamrot in this one, -195. I've seen him as low as -180. I do like the odds here. Mateusz Gamrot is going to be my pick.
Yeah, this is the fight I'm on. This is the fight I'm all over. I'm all over Mateusz Gamrot. I like the fact that he has a size. He's gonna have the wrestling advantage. He has every advantage except for maybe the submissions, but I don't think it's gonna get there. I like Gamrot in this fight. When you look at Ferreira in his last fight against Beneil Dariush, he looked like he gassed as the fight went on. Second, third round, he was tiring out. And Gamrot in his fight, the fight that he lost, that was a close fight that could have went either way. Third round, Gamrot showed that he still has that cardio. So I think Gamrot has every advantage here in this fight here. Stay out of the submissions. You shouldn't lose this fight here. I really like Gamrot here to get this done here. He could be 20-0, right? So I'm going to go Mateusz Gamrot to deal with and get the win over Diego Ferreira.
Fight number 3, we have Raphael Assunção taking on Ricky Simón. Interesting bantamweight matchup here. Assunção, he last fought 18 months ago, lost to Cody Garbrandt at that time. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, and you're now looking at somebody who is 39 years old. A bit of a stalker-ish type of stand-up, slightly unorthodox. He will switch stance as well. Good calf kick, just not active enough on the feet for my liking. He does have explosive hands when it is time to engage. And I mean, he does have the ability to land that takedown, 1.5 per fight, almost 40% accuracy. Really good top control when he does get you down. Good ground and pound, good grappling and positioning to allow himself to stay on top as well. Assunção, pretty good fighter. Let's not forget this is a fighter who was ranked top 5 in the division for quite a while. But at this point, 3-fight losing streak, 39 years old. He's obviously not who he used to be. Ricky Simón, on the other hand, he beat Brian Kelleher in February. He's on a 3-fight win streak to that point. Pretty complete fighter, in my opinion. Good wrestling. Wrestling is his strong suit. We see he averages almost 7 takedowns per fight at 54% accuracy. He's usually the one controlling the center of the octagon, so it's going to be interesting to see who wins that sort of battle there on the feet. Usually coming forward as well, he cuts the ring off pretty well, throws a lot of pop into his punches. The boxing is decently clean. There is a lot to like about him. Again, like I said, in terms of Simón's biggest advantages, wrestling, but outside of wrestling, you also have to allude to their ages. Like I said, Raphael Assunção is 39 years old. Ricky Simón is 29 years old, and you have to assume usually 28 to 32 is kind of that time when you're in your athletic prime, versus a 39-year-old who, of course, is no longer in his athletic prime. When you look at Assunção on paper, 80% takedown defense, in addition to great grappling, that will work in his favor. But Simón on paper averages, like I said, 7 takedowns per fight at almost 50% accuracy. That tells you that he'll at least go for it. And I think that will work in his favor to score points in what could be close rounds. I think Ricky Simón's striking may be more effective, regardless of who the better striker is. I think Ricky Simón has the better wrestling, although Assunção is solid with his, and again, has that grappling. And I think to that point, I think Assunção is maybe the more dangerous grappler. Typically, when I look at those big 3 of MMA, striking, wrestling, and grappling, whenever I'm looking at the fighter that has the better striking and wrestling, I typically go in that direction. And again, not to say Simón's striking is better, but I do think it's more effective. Close fight on paper, but ultimately I'm going to have to side with the 29-year-old that may be in his athletic prime, rather than the 39-year-old who is past his prime, who hasn't fought in 18 months, and who is on a 3-fight losing streak. So to that point, Ricky Simón will be my pick.
Yeah, this is a good fight here. We know Ricky Simón. They want to push Ricky Simón. But with Raphael Assunção, he's on that 3-fight losing streak. And you gotta think, you gotta wonder where his head is at in terms of this game of mixed martial arts. You have to be 100% in. And the fights that he's lost, those 3 fights, it wasn't even close. Like some of these fights, he was just getting destroyed in that 3-fight loss. Now, when I look at Ricky Simón now, I look at a guy younger guy, getting close to his prime. He's going to have that takedowns. He's going to have the strength advantage. The striking is going to be close. Assunção may be more technical, but Ricky Simón, I think, is going to have the power, if that makes sense. I think he's going to have the power here, but I think Ricky Simón is going to take him down. I think he's going to utilize the strength here and just get him to the mat and just ground him out here. Assunção is a good jiu-jitsu fighter, but he's not that good off his back. So I'm going to go Ricky Simón here to utilize that grappling. The younger guy here, he should get this done. He's motivated, and I think this is going to be Assunção's retirement fight.
Good additional point on the retirement fight. I can definitely see that happening as well. Let's move on to fight number 4. We have Amanda Lemos taking on Angela Hill. Lemos, she beat Montserrat Ruiz back in July. She looked really good, or she has looked really good during her 4-fight win streak at this point. She has a Thai style of stand-up. She fights tall. She has a real good jab. She has good pop, good hand speed. Pretty dynamic on the feet, really explosive hands as well. Good kicks, good calf kick, good front kick, good Thai kicks to the body. She used to compete at 135. So to be in this 115 strawweight division, we know she's going to be pretty big and physically strong against anyone that she goes up against. Interestingly enough and impressively, she has 100% takedown defense in the UFC. Also has pretty good, strong ground game, good ground and pound, vicious ground and pound, lands almost 2 takedowns a fight. And in addition to her 100% takedown defense, she also has 100% takedown accuracy. Again, I think a lot of that just has to do with the sheer strength that she has in this weight class. And that's something that's going to work really well for her. When I look at Angela Hill, she lost to Tisha Torres back in August. Really good on the feet, good speed, good movement, good lateral movement, especially good head movement, good continuous movement, decent striking defense as a result of all that movement, decent right straight. And, I like that she throws her punches in combinations. It's usually more than one punch at a time. Really effective clinch. We know that she's a Muay Thai fighter. She's a two-time North American Muay Thai champion. So has a very legitimate Thai clinch, can use that against anyone and can use that to her advantage against anyone. Pretty solid on the ground, good ability to get back up if she is taken down. And of course, we know one of her strong suits is her cardio. She will not stop. We know Amanda Lemos is being pushed here a bit. She's on the third last fight of the card versus a fan favorite company woman type of opponent. I think Lemos has all the tools to be a legitimate contender. And if I were to maybe make a prediction on that, I think that could be as early as the end of 2022 in terms of seeing her potentially contend for the title. I'm a fan of Angela Hill's style. She's just in a really bad matchup here. And we look at her record 13-10. She kind of often finds herself in pretty bad matchups. Lemos will have the advantage almost everywhere here. I think she's physically stronger, physically bigger, better takedown game. Maybe not the better stand-up, maybe not definitively, but what I can say is she is definitely more dangerous on the feet. What could cost her is if she tires out. We know Angela Hill will not stop, but if that does not happen, I can see Amanda Lemos potentially hurting Angela Hill here, or just decisively winning 2 rounds. So Amanda Lemos would be my pick.
Yeah, this is a good fight here, but at those odds, if you're betting, you gotta take a shot at Angela Hill at those odds. She definitely has improved as a fighter, and she's gonna be the vet in there. She's gonna have that cardio advantage. If she doesn't take any big shots, she could win a decision here. But I'm with you. I'm with you on this Lemos. I think the UFC is pushing her. I think this is a fight that she could win, and a fight that even if it goes decision, I think the hard shots from Lemos can sway the rounds, right? So I like Lemos here to get this done, win the first 2 rounds. But I see Angela here piling it on the 3rd round. But I think at that point, it's going to be a bit too late. So I'm going to go Lemos to get this done. But as far as betting goes, I'm not putting a bet on this. Because I think that there's a lot of value on taking Angela Hill to upset Amanda Lemos. But I'm going to go Lemos here to get this done.
Fight number 5 in our co-main event, we have Stephen Thompson versus Belal Muhammad. Stephen Thompson, he lost to Gilbert Burns back in July. We know his MO at this point. Karate stance, a lot of calf kicks, fights at range, good movement, often a very hard target to hit. We know his hands stay down, but that's to his advantage. Keeps the speed up, really sneaky counter puncher as a result of that, especially when he is moving backwards. Good speed, good movement around the ring, good counter punching. We know he's 38 years old, so that is something to, raise a flag to. But he's not necessarily fighting like someone who is too old for the division. Is 38 a concern? That's something that I do ask myself, but I know Stephen Thompson sort of joked around that he's going to be fighting in the UFC for a very long time. Almost joked around about having a seniors division because he said that he wants to compete that long. So maybe just doesn't feel old from that perspective and might not be a concern for him for this fight. Very good takedown defense. Doesn't really show it, but he does have a bit of a jiu-jitsu background as well. So he's not clueless if he was to be taken down. But like I said, pretty good takedown defense in Stephen Thompson. Otherwise, he's going to be somebody that wants to keep it on the feet. Going up against Belal Muhammad, he beat Damian Maia in June. He's now unbeaten in 6 fights. Obviously, we won't talk about the Leon Edwards no contest because he was definitely losing that fight. Good boxing, good kickboxing. We know he can switch stance. He likes to fight in the pocket, definitely willing to engage. has striking IQ. He can switch things up pretty well. You know, in Belal fights, it's often up to whether or not you have the better striking. Although I like his boxing, it is very possible to outstrike him. And again, we look at that Leon Edwards fight as somebody who was just the better striker and was, quite honestly speaking, making Belal look pretty bad on the feet. Otherwise, he's a pretty complete fighter. You know, he has wrestling, he can grapple, he's good on the feet overall. There's no glaring weakness to his game. You know, again, I said we won't talk about the Leon Edwards no contest, but it has some relevance here. You know, Belal was a bit confused on the feet by a more dynamic striker in Leon Edwards, albeit a different type of striker. Stephen Thompson definitely fits that bill as well. And I'm wondering if we're also going to see Belal look a bit confused on the feet going up against Stephen Thompson. You know, as complete as Belal is, you know, pure dynamic striker gives him problems. You know, like I said, Wonderboy kind of fits that description. And, you know, almost solely because of that, almost solely because of the Leon performance. Again, much different striker in Stephen Thompson, but almost solely because of that, I am going to go with Wonderboy here. You know, it is a risk, of course. Father Time catches up to everyone. Stephen Thompson is 38 years old. But that said, I'm going to echo myself. More dynamic striker, good takedown defense, good counter punching. I think those are the things that are going to get the job done for Stephen Thompson, especially in a 3-round fight going up against Belal Muhammad. I think it might take Belal 2 or 3 rounds to even figure him out. So I like Stephen Thompson here. Too dynamic on the feet, going to give Belal problems. He's going to be my pick.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was going back and forth in this fight all week, all like since the last card that happened. I was one day going Wonderboy, the next day going Belal. So I was going back and forth here. I had a good look on this fight here, and it's tough. I know you referenced the fight with Leon Edwards, but I think that this is a different fight. They both Leon and Wonderboy are better strikers than Belal, that's for sure. But the difference is Leon could wrestle. Like, he can legit wrestle offensively too. So the takedowns was not even a thought for Belal. I think in this fight, the takedown is going to be a thought here. I think he's going to be looking at takedowns. He saw how Gilbert Burns got this fight done, able to get him to the mat. And Belal has shown that he can take a shot. So he'll take a shot, eat a shot to get the takedown. So I'm going to go with the underdog here. But again, this obviously he's the underdog for a reason. But I like him in this spot. I think he's the overall, on paper, the better fighter. I believe that Wonderboy has a big advantage in the striking. That's for sure. But I think in every other aspect in MMA, I think Belal is the better fighter in. And I think he's better substantially. So I'm going to go Belal here. I'm going to roll the underdog to get this one done.
Let's move on in that case to our main event of the evening. We have Derrick Lewis taking on Chris Daukaus. Derrick Lewis, we know he lost to Cyril Gane back in August. Again, we know his MO at this point. He's a big striker. He's a patient striker. We know he has that touch of death power. Especially as a counterpuncher. If you overcommit, he will catch you. You know, he controls center of octagon. He is getting in better physical shape. You know, good takedown defense, mainly due to how physically strong he is. You know, he's always going to have a puncher's chance, no matter which fight he's in. What concerns me for Derrick Lewis is that if you can move better than him, and you can score points ultimately for the entire round. You know, he's a fighter who often finds himself losing the fight until he lands that big one. So, you know, this fight ultimately, I think, goes kind of the same way. If I'm looking at Chris Daukaus, he beat Shamil Abdurakhimov in September. And, you know, he's going from a prelim card versus Shamil to now the main event. So that's definitely a big step up for him, just in terms of competition, in terms of the stage that he's on, being in a 5-round fight for the first time in the UFC. But when we look at him in terms of just his record, 12-3, 10 of his wins are via KO TKO. You got to respect the power that he has to offer as a small heavyweight. And it's always interesting to note his size because he is so much smaller. He typically weighs, anywhere from 230 to 240. We've seen his last fight, he weighed in at 231. But in terms of his ability, solid hands, amazing hand speed for the division, very accurate in his punches, pretty technically sound too. And again, has the pop in his hands. It's a very tough fight to call, very unpredictable fight to call. We know it has heavyweight beware written all over it. On one hand, this is a step down in competition for Derrick Lewis, as well as a big step up in competition for Daukaus. On the other hand, with many of Lewis's opponents, I can see Daukaus scoring points throughout the rounds, as the better mover, as having the better technical game plan to try to stick and move. If he's smart, he will use a stick and move type of approach. What concerns me with Lewis, again, especially in that last fight versus Ciryl Gane, and even just his other fights in general, is that he just has no activity. He relies too much on that one big punch. If he was somebody that introduced just a few jabs to his game, I think he'd be much more dangerous on the feet than he is now. From a betting standpoint, you have to like your chances with Daukaus here. I feel like it's the smarter decision to go in. Although he's a very different fighter than Ciryl Gane, you can imagine that Daukaus will similarly try to rack up points, where your only concern in this fight is him staying out of the way of the big return by Lewis. But like I said, very different striker in Chris Daukaus compared to Ciryl Gane. I think Derrick Lewis is much more likely to land that big one on Daukaus than he was against Ciryl Gane. But that said, like I said, win or lose, because this is heavyweight beware at the end of the day, I kind of have to go with Chris Daukaus. And the reason why I have to go with Chris Daukaus is, again, I feel like he's the much smarter bet to me. If you look at the person who can rack up points and win the round versus the one big puncher that's going to rely on that one big punch, I'm going to go with the person that can rack up rounds almost every single time. And in this situation, that fighter is Chris Daukaus. The odds are pretty close, so that I don't have to go out of my way to bet on Chris Daukaus. I don't think he's too big of a favorite. I do wish this was a pick'em, and I wouldn't be surprised if some money comes in on Derrick Lewis closer to the event. But like I said, the smarter bet to me is Chris Daukaus, so I'm going to have to go on that side.
Yeah, this for me is a tough fight, because when you look at the size of Derrick Lewis, you got to think that he's just going to walk through this big guy, right? 264 pounds. He's going to have a 40, 50-pound weight advantage fight after they rehydrate. But again, I agree with you in a sense that Derrick Lewis is going to be losing the fight until he lands that punch, if he lands that punch. So for me, Derrick Lewis has a small window to win this fight. He has lesser options to win this fight. He has to knock him out. Well, I believe Daukaus has more options here. He can win by grappling. Like he can win by knockout. He can win by decision, just being the higher output fighter. So I think that Chris Daukaus has way more avenues here. Like, to bet on Derrick Lewis, you got to bet knowing that your guy's going to be losing the fight until he hopefully lands that punch. So I don't feel comfortable doing that. So I'm going to go with Chris Daukaus to win this fight. But again, this is a fight that I'm just going to enjoy. I'm definitely not putting a bet on this.
Can definitely agree with that. To that note, let's take it to Vegas. Let's take a look at the main card, and let's sort of start with an underdog pick. Which underdog do you feel has the best shot at winning?
I'm rolling with Belal Muhammad.
Belal Muhammad, good odds there, plus 187, and very valid reasons to feel like he has a shot there. In terms of my underdog pick, I think Darren Elkins has the best shot at winning as an underdog, so I will be going with him. And in terms of your favorite picks, or pick of the night, or pick of the main card, I should say, who are you taking a look at?
I think you got to really look at, as gamblers, your money's on the line. You got to look at Mateusz Gamrot this weekend. I think there's value there. But to make a parlay, I'll parlay that with Ricky Simón or Barcelos. Let me go Ricky Simón.
All right, so those two fights would be a plus 104. $100 will get you 204. For our bigger bettors, $250 will return 511. In terms of my favorite, I will say I will echo Mateusz Gamrot. I do think he is the pick of the night, the pick of the card. So definitely we'll double down on that messaging. If I were to add a second fight, I just have to think Amanda Lemos has been looking too good, despite how good Angela Hill is, despite how much of a fan of her game I am. Amanda Lemos has been looking too good. So that would be a minus 110. $100 will return 191. For our bigger bettors, $250 will return 479. So let's officially sign off on that note. UFC Vegas 45, aka UFC Fight Night, Derrick Lewis versus Chris Daukaus. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up on this video, what is our last video for the year. Definitely looking to come back in 2022 with a bang. If you have been paying attention to the channel, what you've been noticing is that we have been tracking our performance since sometime in October. So we're definitely looking forward to continuing that all year next year. Definitely want a better pulse on how we're doing for the entire year, and definitely want to share that with you, the viewers, as well. So again, subscribe to the channel, come along for the journey. We're definitely going to come strong in 2022. Going to make you guys a lot of money. But again, UFC Vegas 45, let's officially sign off. AKA UFC Fight Night, Derrick Lewis versus Chris Daukaus. He goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. Happy holidays to everyone. Happy New Year to everyone. And before that, let's get this money.
Let's do it.